Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala ashraf al-anbiya wal-mursaleen Abu Qasim Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ahli baytihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin al-ma'sumin wa la'ana Allah ad-da'im ala a'da'ihim ajma'een. Brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. For the return of our Imam, please recite the salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And allow me to offer my condolences to all of you, to all the lovers of Ahlul Bayt, all the lovers of truth, to the descendants of the Prophet, to the Prophet himself and Fatima Zahra, the Imam of our time, and all of the Ahlul Bayt, alaykum as-salatu was-salam. On this, the anniversary of the martyrdom of Imam Hussain, alayhi salatu was-salam. We go back now to the tiny besieged camp of Hussain, and where the sands of Karbala were once dry, they have now been soaked with the blood of the martyrs. There are signs of battle everywhere. Hussain is alone now. Before, he would call for Ali Akbar, but Ali Akbar is gone. He would call for his brother Abbas, but there is no more Abbas. He has no one left to protect him, the women and children of the Ahlul Bayt, from their enemies. His time, he knows, has come. He goes back into the camp and he calls his sister Zainab and he asks her, bring me something that no one would want, that I may cover my modesty, so that when I'm dead and they loot my corpse, there will be something left to protect the dignity of the grandson of the Prophet. And so she brings a robe, and he puts it on and he starts tearing it, so that no one would want to take it off him. And he tells his sister Zainab to be strong, that she must now look after the Prophet's household. And then he goes to the tent of the ladies to say goodbye. And to his eldest daughter, Fatima, he gives a book. He says, you must protect this book and give it to your brother once you are free again. And then he calls Sukaina, his little girl, and she comes and hugs him and puts her head on his chest and she begins to weep. And Imam Hussain says to her, oh Sukaina, do not break your father's heart by weeping while he still lives. And he lets go of her for the last time, kisses her between her eyes, and then he leaves. And that will be the last time that Sukaina would see her daddy alive. And then he goes to his only surviving son, Ali ibn Hussain, who is so ill that he does not have the strength to get up. And so Imam Hussain kneels beside his son and holds him to his chest as you would a small child. And he whispers in his ear and passes on the secrets of the Imamah to him and tells him that everything he needs, all of these items that belong to the prophets, that are in the keeping of the Imam, he has left with the wife of the Prophet, Salama in Medina. And then he holds his son tight and he kisses his cheek and he says, my son, let me tell you what my father Ali ibn Abi Talib told me when he was dying. Never oppress someone who has no helper against you except Allah, and always hold on to the truth, no matter how difficult it may be. And he bids his son farewell. Hussain steps onto the battlefield, utterly alone against time. He gives them an opportunity. He asks, is there no one amongst you who will defend the sanctity of the blood of the Prophet? Is there no one here who fears Allah in our regard? Is there no one who will respond to our calls for help, desiring Allah's reward? He turns left and right, but no one comes forward. And then he hears a sound behind him. And Ali ibn Hussain is coming out of his tent, dragging the sword behind him because he is too weak to lift it. And he's saying, Father, I will help you. And Hussain calls his daughter Kulthum and says, Kulthum, take him back inside, or there will be nothing left of the Prophet's household after this day is done. And so Imam Hussain mounts Dhul Janah one last time. And says, dear friend, you know what you have to do. And as he rides into the army, people scatter in all directions. No one will face him. There is one soldier called Abdullah ibn Ammar who would later say, I ran forward to attack Hussain with a spear in my hand, and if I wanted to, I could have stabbed him. But as soon as I got close enough, I dropped my spear and I ran away. Because no one wants to be the first to shed the blood of Hussain. He attacks them right and left, but they scatter like sheep. So when Shimr sees this, he takes his horsemen and they start to shoot our Imam with arrows. And there are so many arrows, it's as though the sky is raining arrows upon Hussain. He sustains so many wounds that there is not a single part of his body which an arrow has not pierced. And then someone throws a rock and it strikes his blessed forehead and his helmet falls off and the blood begins to flow over his eyes and his beard. Another arrow thuds into his chest and another in his neck, and the blood begins to flow out. And he calls out, is this how you will send me back to my grandfather, Rasulullah, covered in my own blood? Oh Allah, they are killing the grandson of your Prophet. And Imam Hussain falls from his horse. But he has so many arrows in him that his body does not hit the ground. The arrows hit the ground and they are driven deeper into him. And Sayyidah Zainab hears her brother's cry and she rushes from the tents and sees him off his horse and surrounded by enemies. And she calls out, "Oh Umar ibn Sa'ad, will you just sit there and watch while Abu Abdullah is slain?" And even Umar ibn Sa'ad is weeping and the tears are wetting his beard, but he just turns away and covers his eyes. And then some soldiers, thinking that Hussain is dead, begin to attack the tents and the women start to scream. But then there is a shout from Abu Abdullah. He says, "Woe to you! If you have no religion and you do not fear the day of judgment, then at least be free in this world." And Abu Abdullah al-Hussain is standing up again. He has arrows in every part of him. There is no limb that is not soaked in blood, and yet he is standing to defend the women of the Prophet's household with a sword in his hand. There is silence. He is completely cut off and surrounded. There is no escape. There is no one coming to help him. Everyone knows that this is the end, but still, the enemies of Allah are too afraid to be the ones to kill Hussain. And so Shimr calls out, "May your mothers be deprived of you! Kill him! Kill Ibn Fatima!" Ya Zahra. And so all the soldiers rush in at the same time, and Imam Hussain cannot deflect all these blows. He is cut on his left and on his right and on his back, and a sword strikes him on his head, and finally Sinan ibn Anas la'natullahi alayhi pierces him with a spear, and he goes down. The grandson of the Prophet falls onto the ground in such pain, bleeding. And the enemies gather around him, and they start arguing about who should be the one to finish the deed. And so Shimr orders Sinan, the man who stabbed him with a spear, to take his head. And so Sinan takes Imam Hussein's beard in his hand. And he says, I will cut off your head, though I know that you are the grandson of the Prophet. And he brings his sword down, but he can't do it in one stroke, and so he's hacking away at the neck of Imam Hussain. And now that Abu Abdullah has been martyred, they begin to take the things from his clothing, from his armor, from his weapons, his rings. There is nothing left on the body of Abu Abdullah al-Hussain. Even the robe he put to protect his modesty, they take that too. And to add insult to injury, they bring the horses and trample his body into the ground. And there is a great cry. A great cry brings all the women running out of the tents to see what has happened. And they see Dhul Janah coming back. But there is no Hussain on Dhul Janah. Only his blood. And the women begin to cry because now they have no one to protect them. And their ordeal is only just beginning, because already the tents of the household of the Prophet are burning. May Allah curse the killers of Imam Hussain. And may Allah curse those who are pleased with the killing of Imam Hussain. And may Allah curse those who made it possible for them to kill Imam Hussain. Salawatullahi alayhi. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Brothers and sisters, please raise your hands for dua. Allahumma kun li waliyaka al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Salawatuka alayhi wa ala aba'i. في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقاعدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. Oh Allah, by our love for Hussain, hasten the reappearance of our Imam. Oh Allah, by our love for Hussain, let the Imam of our time take revenge on his killers. And oh Allah, by our love for Hussain, even if we, na'udhu billah, have died, bring us back from our graves, that we may too take part in that revenge. وصل يا رب على محمد وآله الطاهرين.